Alright, welcome back. First of all, not financial advice. Consult your licensed financial advisor before doing anything. Stocks, bonds, all currencies. Extremely volatile, extremely risky. Do not do anything that you will regret. And do not invest what you're not willing to lose. Consult your licensed financial advisor. Alright, I feel like ranting. Because I'm just sick of it. You see, the more you know, the angrier you get in life, and the more you realize how irrational the masses are, how dumb they are, and how people get robbed. So I'm just gonna rant, and that's how I feel about it. So this is Apple. A monthly chart of Apple. Do you think this is normal? Does this look normal? It does for a bubble, I think, but it's not normal. Here is the FANG index weekly chart on the left. Here's the NASDAQ on the right. Let me zoom out so you can really see it. Weekly chart, by the way. Actually, let's take a closer look. Is this normal? What happened last time? It got a little overextended. That was the dot-com bubble in 2000, right? You know, a lot of this is just common sense. I mean, I can't expect like average people to understand any of this, and that's okay. It's not that you're dumb. It's just, but let's say Wall Street and people trading and investing. Like if that's your career, it's pretty common sense, right? Here's the NASDAQ. Is this normal? Now, in the sense that, is this normal? Okay. You see this low down here where it almost touched my blue line? It actually hit the 200-week moving average and then rebounded, had a complete reversal, and made new all-time highs. This was this past March, this year, right? Where everything got shut down. The economy pretty much imploded. And now we're up here, right? You think that's normal? Okay. Is this normal? 5 companies have essentially 50% of the US's market cap. Is that normal? Okay, let's get a little more in depth. 50 million people lost their jobs. 50 million. There's 330 million Americans total, population-wise. Okay? Now, before, everyone lost their jobs, somewhere, I mean, don't quote me, I'm wrong, but I think it was somewhere around really 180 million had jobs. Okay. So 180 million had jobs prior to this crisis. 50 million lost it. So 60, 70, 80. We have 130 million working. Total population 330 million. So like, 1/3. 1/3 work. The rest are retired, they're elderly, they're collecting their pensions, Social Security. The other demographic that don't work is children, disabled, and millennials, essentially, who were baristas and bartenders and servers. Because we had a service sector consumption-based economy, right? Not industrial manufacturing. That's what this country was built on. That's why it got rich. We don't have that anymore, right? Why is that? Well, we're not competitive on a global stage. The worst regulations, taxes, small businesses can't grow into larger businesses, and it's really hard to manufacture anything. So China took over that role in the world as the world engine, and then we exchange. So as the United States, as a company, if you want to view it as a company, because it is, what do we export mainly? We export dollars. What do we import? Goods, physical things, right? For cheap, made in China. That sounds like a great deal, and it kind of is at first. In the long run, we lose our ability and skills to make things. And that's the real problem. That's why the economy can't ever grow out of all of the debt that it's in. That the state ran up, the corporations ran up, the central bank, all the currency they created is actually debt. So it can't be paid off because we don't have a real economy anymore. We have tech giants. Okay. I'm just looking for the numbers here, right? So we had more weaker economic data this week. GDP fell by like 33%. It's negative 33%. The GDP grew negative 32.9%. That means the economy contracted. Like it shrunk by 33% in the second quarter for the US. The rest of the world is just as screwed. This was self-inflicted. Sweden, this is like, look it up. Can you guys look up all the countries that did absolutely nothing, no lockdowns, nothing? How are they doing? Seems like they're doing great. They're fine. They're fine. Okay. The Senate hearing, our House committee hearing. You know, the left side of politics and is the big tech is on their side because they're mostly censoring the right side of the spectrum, right? But both did a good job questioning all the major CEOs of the top biggest companies, right? But is it kabuki theater? What I'm trying to say is, yeah, there were some politicians who were serious, but then there's others who seem and sound serious, but they're not. It's just theater, so they get reelected and stay in power. And it's kind of like they time these things right before major elections, right? To keep the peasants thinking that they're really on their side. We wouldn't have these monopolies if it wasn't for corrupt bureaucrats. So let's look at some more things. And Netherlands never did anything. They're fine. Their economy's probably fine too, or better off. Let's talk a little bit about Apple. I feel like I'm missing some. All right, so actually, we'll get to Apple in a little bit. We're gonna talk about Ray Dalio, but let me finish up with this pie chart. Why did this happen? This isn't normal. This isn't fine. This isn't free market capitalism, and it's not the failure of free market capitalism. This isn't me complaining because I don't like change. Matter of fact, I'm the one who wants change. Okay? Um, in a free market, you have competition. If you have high competition, giant monopolies cannot grow. They do not exist in high competitive environments. What is a high competitive environment? It's more like Darwinism. It's survival of the fittest. But because as companies grow bigger and bigger, they become slower, less agile, they have more overhead and more problems. So the free market limits their size. And then competitors come in and undercut them and are more agile, more innovative. Okay? Big companies don't have to innovate because they hold most of the market share, so there's no one to compete against. Matter of fact, they end up destroying their competitors or buying them out. Okay? This is very important for average people to understand. But why don't average people understand this? Well, one, the educational system is designed so they don't on purpose because the people in power don't want them to know that. Two, everyone to keep control of the cattle, the sheep, right? The livestock that you're farming, let's say, but they're smart livestock, right? People. But to get as much juice and productivity out of them, what you want to do is put them in an educational system that teaches them to become experts in one thing. You compartmentalize them, right? So, people go to universities, they become an engineer, they become, I don't know, gender study. No, they become. I had to. You have one skill, right, coming out of a university, pretty much, and then it took you many years to get that one skill, but you didn't work on any other skills. That's why we have a bunch of kids these days who can't change a tire. They can't change a flat if their car breaks down the side of the highway, right? And that's a problem. That's a huge problem. Because if people don't have a roundabout knowledge of a little bit of everything, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's people who say people who become successful are experts in one thing. True, because they become the best at it and then they become valuable in society. But the real secret is that person also knows a lot about other things. And that's what makes them so successful in that one skill. Let me give you an example. Okay, I believe you should get one of the real degrees is for engineers, right? So you're an engineer. How do you become one of the best engineers in the world? Well, you have to, I believe, this is my theory, you have to have a roundabout knowledge of other things and how they work, and you have to have imagination. And let's say this engineer also likes to study bugs and animals. Well, how would that help him out with his engineering job? Well, he could incorporate how animals and bugs move, right? Like, think of it. Like a hummingbird. That thing's flying around. You can't even see its wings. It looks like it's floating. And it's very stable in the air when it goes to extract pollen out of a flower. Well, if an engineer knows how studied that hummingbird, maybe they could incorporate the way that thing flies into maybe a new type of drone or flying device or vehicle. Does that make sense? It's kind of like how the airplane was invented, the wings of an airplane. They studied the wings of birds. What else is a good example? Maybe if you're developing new paint for vehicles or something, you actually want to try to invent like paint that could change color. Well, maybe you'd look at a chameleon or the way the biochem in the chameleon skin works, and then you could incorporate it to like nanotechnology or something that, or little nanobots or something that change kind of like, you guys get what I'm saying. I hope so. What else? Another example. There's body armor, right? Actually, the samurai use this. If you ever look at their body armor, they have scales on their body armor, kind of like reptilians. Reptilians have like the hardest, toughest skin, but they're scaly. They're like diamond hardened skin that's over one another, and that creates a very tough barrier. Well, they incorporated it into their body armor. So I think I give you guys some good examples. Anyways, what I'm trying to get at, because people are compartmentalized and they only are experts in one field, or maybe two at the most, they're not experts in investing. And then you have the financial community, just like the economic community, just like every professor, Ivy League, everyone, scientists even these days. That's why science is BS. Or it's not what it used to be. Let's just say that. What they do to create themselves jobs is they make things sound really complicated. So one of the red flags, when someone's talking and they use way too many buzzwords and big words, and what they're trying to really do is make themselves sound important and very knowledgeable, and like they are some sort of wizard expert at what they're talking about, but really they're just using words that most people didn't learn because they have other careers and skills in life. So when people hear about finance, economics, and all this crap, and that's why I think a lot of people listen to me, because I don't use all these big words. I just kind of explain it in layman's terms. I explain it in a way where an average person could understand it. That's why I'm giving examples. And they do that on purpose, so people think that there's no way they could understand any of this, and they have to get a financial advisor. And then those people are also indoctrinated and in the universities, and they're also indoctrinated to think in a certain way through Keynesian economics and the financial industry, and through the mainstream pundits, this and that. And then everyone does the same exact thing. And it's the herd mentality. And then geniuses, right? Like Ray Dalio, who created the largest index fund in the world, index funding. He created his all-weather portfolio, this and that. He's not smart. He's not that smart. He's no smarter than Schiff, Rand Paul, Edward Griffin. They all warned and said the things that he is saying now, but they talked about it 10, 20 years prior, because that's how ahead they were. Now, does that make them wrong in investing and trading? Yes. If you're too early, you're wrong, technically. Then you're a broken stop clock. So they always come out right before the big event so they could claim credit. They could also say they warned everyone, and then they could sound like geniuses, and then they could leave this world as, with a legacy. But there was people prior to them who were saying all this. Okay, not just that, they knew that this was going to happen because they created this monster. They created this beast. They are smart, okay? So they created the system, and then they know kind of when their system is falling apart. And now he sounds a lot like me and everyone else and Schiff who's been warning about all this, right? Now, the problem is the only reason the US became so financialized and has been pillaged by these boomers. And I'm not saying they're all bad. I'm just saying that generation has some of the most cynical shit I've ever seen. Like, now they're telling our generations that you guys would be happier with less. That you guys would be happier living this minimalist lifestyle. Just rent a little cubicle apartment. Lower your carbon footprint. It's for the better. You'll be happier. Meanwhile, they lived it up. With their yachts and planes. They're hypocrites. Even the middle class. RVs. I mean, what are all their jobs? I mean, most of these people, their jobs were consulting. Or they actually did work in a plant. But they made, like, with their unions, they made... And then they got their pensions. They pillaged, okay? They're the generation... You know... The hard times create strong men create the good times, and the good times create weak men. The boomers are the weak men. Now the millennials and the younger generations are even worse, but they've been a product of like just complete and utter. The boomers let all this happen to them, okay? Because they let the educational system do what it did. They let pop culture do what it did. They fed off of them. So, and the Gen X and millennials and whatever Z or whatever's below us, we're gonna get stuck holding this bag. This debt bag, this ticking time bomb. Although they're going to get hit too on their way out in their 70s and 80s. So I think they thought that they can make this go longer. But anyways, that's why they're going to keep printing. Because it buys them more time while they're still alive. So, and you have to understand, you know, everything that's happening today is more of a distraction, divide and conquer. So you really don't get a real class warfare. I'm talking about the 1% of the 1%. They're really afraid of everyone just going, you know, they sort of own 7% of everything. They really do. How did that happen? So they'd rather have the left versus the right and all of this, you know, everyone's being tribalized and blah blah, which that happens with these cyclical events. It does happen anyways. That was gonna happen, guys. Like, there isn't like a group of people in a room. I mean, there is groups of people who, you know, they have these meetings, but they're really not that in control. Trust me, they're always on the verge of losing it all. All right. And I think they are going to lose control. They don't think it because they live in a bubble as well where they think they're... But, you know. Anyways, I'm going to digress from that. So, what else? So, let's take a look at Apple. Oh, and one more thing. Let's get back. You know what? I don't want to end this video and just think back. Oh man, I forgot to talk about that. I didn't make notes. All right. There's good arguments to why they do deserve all this market cap and money, right? I would say what Bezos did was pretty... I wouldn't say it's innovative. It's not. We used to have the Sears catalog. You know, you used to be able to order a home out of a catalog in the 50s. You used to be able to order cars, homes, everything. There's entire communities and counties in the US where every home was ordered out of a Sears catalog. That's why they all look alike and they're all kind of cheap, no insulation. But anyways, at least back then, those homes were built in the US. Anyways, so what they're doing is nothing new. It's nothing new. What's new? Oh, the internet? It's convenient to just shop online through an app on your phone and online? Yeah, I guess it's convenient. Well, what he did was the way he went about with his business that really scaled him up. And all the hype from the mainstream media pundits and all of that cheap money from the central bank. And then they got grants, taxpayer money, and they built them up. Okay? And they're trying to go global, and now he wants... And now Bezos pretty much created a giant supply chain with giant warehouse hubs all across the US and then in Europe, and he's going to do it across the world. Okay. Great business model, but nothing new. This was already around the 50s. Okay? He's just a middleman. That's all it is. Middleman. And now, but the problem is he's trying to buy up physical companies as well, his competitors, and trying to take over the entire supply chain of the freaking planet. So should he be able to do that? Why is he able to do that? Well, because central banks and investors, 401ks, and retirements are all invested in these index funds Ray Dalio created, which are weighted like this pie chart. So if everyone's retirement, because they don't know anything about investing or whatever, and all the advisors tell them to just put it in the cookie cutter indexes, which are safe, but they're heavily weighted into these giant companies, what ends up happening is these giant companies take over the world. It turns into Blade Runner, the movie I warned you guys about. I mean, later they're going to start building robots. And then you're really not going to have you're not going to have any chance of getting a job. Unless you're a programmer. I don't even know. But Microsoft, what have they made better in the past decade? Everyone uses Excel and Word and all, and their software and some of their chips they make. Do they deserve to be this big? What about Apple? Have they innovated since Jobs? I feel like I see less and less people with those phones. They're made in China, right? Have they innovated? I mean, they make laptops and tablets as well, but why isn't there more competition? They're like my laptops. I buy Lenovo, right? And you could just change the operating system to Opera. There's better products out there that actually care about your privacy and less able to get hacked. This company, I can't talk about this company because I'm using it right now. They didn't create YouTube. Someone else did. They just bought them up. Facebook. But where do they get their money from? Ads? Who pays for those ads? Other real companies who make real things. Unfortunately, a lot of them are from China. And a lot of the people who own the companies in the US just buy goods from China, mark it up a little bit, and they're kind of like a middleman. And then these tech companies are middlemen as well. And then the supply chain, like FedEx and UPS, ships it to you. Those are real company. FedEx and UPS are real company. This company's going to try to take them out as well. Do you see the concentration and centralization of everything? Do you want to live in a world where there's no jobs, no small businesses, no middle class, just giant megaliths running everything? I don't. I think that's a dangerous world. And very poor and just miserable for the rest of us. Free market wouldn't have let this happen. But we don't have a free market. I could arguably say we haven't had one since like the early 1900s to the 1800s and prior. All forms of centralization lead to shit like this. To giant equity bubbles, financialization, monopolies, inequality gaps, kids in their living in their parents' basements, low testosterone levels, people mentally ill, disenfranchised people who are dumb as shit, don't know what's going on, and everyone hating each other, and all this clown world nonsense we live in. Alright? What's the solution? The solution is let them do what they... It's literally let them destroy themselves, because it's going to happen soon. So, this entire... When it comes down, crashing down, man, it's a good thing. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fun. But we'll come out on top. How? Well, if more and more people learn of how the world really operates and what really happened. So people like me should have a bigger microphone, more access. Unfortunately, that's the reason why I'm not growing and I'm held down. It is what it is for now. At least I'm trying. For now, just, look out for yourselves and survive and thrive. And we are. I mean, I put up a bunch of charts. I was gonna use these, but I don't know. You guys could look at them. I don't want to beat a dead horse. So, what else did I want to show you guys, which I thought was interesting? Let's look at the dollar, since it's really, really weak. Now, the dollar fell out of my range again. And I don't know what they're thinking by letting this happen, because if it keeps falling at this velocity and rate, there's going to be some support at the 88 handle. But if it falls all the way down here, I mean, it takes away all the power from Powell and the central banks. It really does. Like, they can't keep printing, because then it just keeps the velocity of the dollar losing its world reserve currency status will quicken. And I mean, you could say they want that to happen, but not this fast. They could buy themselves more time. How could they do that? Well, you go into foreign exchange markets and buy dollars with dollars. I don't know. They could let the stock market. Let's add the S&P as well to this chart. Actually, let's do the NASDAQ. I think the NASDAQ's better barometer. Okay, so the NASDAQ's the blue line. Wow, it's like literally hand in hand with gold. The orange line is gold. This is a weekly chart. The candlesticks is the dollar. The dollar is over here. Let me take away some stuff here so it's easier to see. This is the dollar right here. This red candlestick. Look how it's been dropping for the past 4 weeks. It's just been free falling. Okay. Well, what they could do is when the market drops, the knee-jerk reaction is to buy the dollar as a safe haven because people sell their stocks and go back into dollars. So they can let the markets correct. At least have a decent-sized pullback. It's been running hot. It's a little ridiculous at this point, especially with the economic data. And then that will give a nice rebound on the dollar. I do expect they're going to do that because they don't really want to lose the power of the Burr machine, right? I also believe if the market corrects, so will metals. The metals will not correct as much as the market, but the mining stocks will correct more than the physical metals because of margin calls. So I do think they're going to let the market correct, especially coming up with elections. So because that'll put in a floor, some support for the dollar, which for later on helps them, gives them the power to do more stimulus and money printing, right? Also, like I said, for the equity markets and gold and silver, I would rather prefer a pullback right now. For both. Why? Well, I took profits on my leveraged ETFs. So I'm looking for a buying opportunity now. I don't want to get back in. But here's the NASDAQ. They should let it pull back to the previous high because that would create massive support on the chart, TA wise. It'd create a bunch of support right here. And then for the next 3 to 4 years, it could go even higher and have that giant blow off top that humanity has never seen before in the history of markets. Which is probably what they're going to do. That's what I would do if I was them. And Trump and whatever. I mean, what else are you going to do? Just let it all fall apart? So, if we look at gold and silver, if I could find the... Okay, here. Let's just look at gold for now. And silver had a massive run up as well. But let's take a look at gold. Take it to a weekly chart. I would like to see a nice correction, pullback. Back down to like 1800 at least, maybe 1750. And then it'll head higher with the rest of the market. Because that would put in some more support, reinforce the support around 1800 to give it a larger ramp to go even higher into 2021 and the years to come. To retest this breakout would turn it into like a support ramp to launch it even higher. That'd be nice. Instead of it just going higher and higher and then having a bigger correction later. Same with the stock market. Another thing I forgot to mention on the DXY. So the DXY, people for some reason cannot understand what the DXY is. It's just the dollar weighted against other fiat currencies around the world. All fiat currencies all around the world are losing value. Do you understand that? So looking at the DXY to measure inflation isn't a good barometer, not a good way to measure inflation or see it. But, mainstream financial news always touts the DXY for inflation, which it's not. The DXY versus the CPI is the way the Fed measures inflation, which is also underestimated. Anyways, let me give you a good example. Back in 2010-11, okay? When the dollar was at... Okay, you know what? Let's go all the way back. Let's just go back to... No, I want to do this right. Let's look at the last time the dollar was at 92. Okay, back here. In October 2005. So the last time the dollar was at the 92 handle, 93 handle, back then, gold was at the price of $500 in 2005. So the last time, I mean, it was also at that same price back in like 2014. But I want you guys to see how much the dollar has lost value against gold, and the DXY doesn't matter when you really want to price it against real inflation, and real inflation is represented in gold, okay, because gold is real money. So back in 2005, when the DXY was at 92, 93 handle, that's where it's at right now as well, you were able to buy... Oh, is that wrong? Oh, no. That's right. You were able to buy 1 ounce of gold for $500. Right now it's at $2,000. That's a 300% increase. But the DXY is at the same handle. Is at the same number, right? See how tricky this stuff is? See how they try to fool you. Okay, let's take a look at not too long ago, right? When the DXY was at 92, 93. Back in 2014. Okay? You were able to buy gold for 1,300. Okay. Now, at current 92, 93 handle on the DXY, gold is at what? Almost 2,000. So, the DXY isn't really measuring real inflation against real money. Do you understand? That's why metals are winning. And that's why your gains are so much more magnified when you get them from mining stocks and the physical. Rather than getting gains from the equity markets and the rest of the S&P and Dow and whatever. By the way, more gold could buy more Dow and S&P and Nasdaq versus that. I'll leave that for another video. Smash some likes. Please share my videos. Leave anything in the comment section. I'll get to it eventually. Till next time.